Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
Have you ever woken up with no drive, no spark, no reason to move? What if I told you that this exact moment could define your future? And what if the silence inside you wasn't emptiness at all, but hidden power waiting to be unleashed? When you feel nothing, no energy, no motivation, that is the test that shapes destiny. Emotions fade, but action must remain. You push yourself forward, not because you want to, but because your mission demands it. That's how true momentum begins, out of silence. In this video, you'll learn how to force yourself forward, even when your heart feels empty. Numbness is not death. It's the moment of greatest potential. The routine may feel heavy, the day may look dull, and every step might seem pointless. But this stillness is not weakness. It's the stage where willpower is tested. Anyone can act when passion is strong, but greatness belongs to those who move when their spirit is quiet. Most people stay stuck because they wait for motivation, a sign, or applause. But real victories come when you act without feeling, when you move simply because you said you would. So where do you begin? With something small. Stand up, shave, write one line, walk 1 mile, then another. Each action is a command to your mind that you are still in control. Picture the person who rises from bed, not because they feel like it, but because they refuse to surrender. They fix their clothes, review their plans, and face the day like a warrior without a drumbeat. That person is not ordinary. That person is rare. What if you started doing what must be done even when you feel nothing? What if, instead of asking how you feel, you asked what needs to be finished? Victory doesn't wait for readiness. You win by acting without permission. You've been told to follow your heart, to move when inspired, but life doesn't pause for your moods. It keeps marching, indifferent to how you feel. The one who waits to be ready always lags behind, always hesitating at the doorway of opportunity. You must act, even when everything inside feels cold. Why? Because readiness is not an emotion, it's a decision. History remembers those who stepped forward despite fear, fatigue, or doubt. The strongest were never the most confident. They were simply the ones who acted, no matter how they felt. So how do you build this strength? You create a habit of commitment. Decide the night before. Lay out your clothes, set your shoes by the door, and declare your actions in advance. Then follow through, no matter the mood that greets you in the morning. That is power. Imagine the writer who still puts pen to paper when their spirit feels dry, or the athlete who trains while their mind whispers weakness. These are the ones who command themselves. They are becoming giants, one dry day at a time. Will you let your feelings decide your future, or will you step forward with empty hands, but full resolve? Build yourself in the dark. The light comes later. There are seasons when the world grows silent around you. No celebration, no inspiration, no visible reward. Joy feels distant. Victory seems like a myth. But these moments are not your downfall. They are the crucible. The fire that doesn't warm you, but transforms you. In the silence, something deeper is being forged. This is not failure, it is formation. When the light disappears, and only your breath remains, that is when you discover what you're truly made of. If you can keep walking with no map, no cheer, and no fuel, you're not lost, you're becoming dangerous. You're learning how to move without being ruled by feeling. When motivation fades, discipline takes the throne. Repeated without applause, that discipline becomes your currency. It's an investment made in sweat, not inspiration. You may not feel like doing anything, and that's fine. You don't need to feel it, you only need to do it. Because the actions you take when your heart is heavy matter far more than the ones taken in joy. They shape your future without asking permission. You are building momentum while others sleep through their seasons of silence. The world won't clap yet, but your reward is quietly stacking out of sight. So how do you move through it? Choose one mission, not 20, not 10, just one. It could be a craft you're mastering, a promise you made, or a long overdue task you buried. Make that your battle and fight it every day. Whether your soul feels on fire or frozen, whether the sky is clear or storming, let consistency, not excitement, define you. Because when you act out of commitment instead of convenience, you become untouchable by fleeting feelings. Think of the one chiseling away at midnight. No applause, no audience, no music, just stubborn repetition. They return not because it feels good, but because they gave their word. The world doesn't know their name or see their hands bleeding, but the universe keeps score in silence. Sooner or later, reward always finds the one who didn't quit. Quiet work becomes loud results. Hidden labor turns into visible harvest, not overnight, but inevitably. Ask yourself, what am I building in the dark? What if this silence, this stillness, isn't punishment but preparation? What if this private battlefield is where your strength grows because your emotions can't get in the way? Maybe the emptiness is making space for power. Maybe the darkness isn't here to harm you, but to harden you. So keep showing up, even when nothing shows up for you. Because the one who keeps moving through the night owns the sunrise. Motion clears the fog, stillness only thickens it. And when the chest feels hollow, with no drive, no fire, no spark, it's easy to do what most people do, nothing. They sit. They wait for the sun to come back. They hope clarity or passion will knock on the door again. But here's the truth. The fog doesn't lift because you wait. It lifts because you move. The atmosphere shifts the moment you step into it. You don't wait for permission. You give it to yourself. Waiting may feel safe, but it slowly buries you in doubt. The longer you stay still, the louder the storm grows in your head. Every second of hesitation breeds more questions, more confusion, more self-criticism. You start to wonder if something is wrong with you. But the instant you take even one step forward, one task, one small effort, the fog loosens its grip. Why? Because action breaks the spell of thought. Thought multiplies endlessly, but action cuts through it like a blade. One small move can shift your state more than 100 perfect ideas. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need a burst of inspiration. What you need is momentum. Start by walking across the room. Splash water on your face. Say your goal out loud, even if your voice shakes. Move your hands. Clean your space. Write a single sentence. Fold the laundry. These small movements tell your mind, we are not done yet. They remind your spirit that life is still flowing, and the body knows how to lead when the mind feels lost. Picture someone stuck for months, paralyzed by overthinking, weighed down by endless plans and pressure. Then one morning, they do something different. They don't overthink. They just step outside. They clean their tools. They sweep the porch. And quietly, something shifts. Not all at once, but the weight begins to lift, and a whisper of purpose returns. For once, the fog doesn't win. And it wasn't thinking that saved them, it was doing. Ask yourself this. What if you stopped analyzing and started acting? What if the cure for that ache inside isn't a breakthrough thought, but simple motion? What if healing isn't something you discover, but something you build, brick by brick, step by step? The fog was never your enemy. It was your training, a test of whether you'd move without clarity. So move, not because you're certain, but because you're alive. Self-discipline is the root, and every fruit grows from it. You want change, you want clarity, you want strength. But none of these are given freely. They don't arrive with a lucky break or a passing wave of inspiration. They are earned quietly, painfully, and repeatedly through one unstoppable force, discipline. Not the discipline of punishment or fear, but the discipline of decision. A vow made in the dark, far from applause. It's the choice to show up, not once, but again and again, regardless of mood, feeling, or circumstance. Every great transformation begins with one decision. Someone, somewhere, finally said, I will do it, no matter what. That single moment split their life in two. Before it, they were reactive. After it, they became relentless. It wasn't lightning that changed them. It wasn't a perfect day or a motivational quote. It was resolve, the determination to act and keep acting, even when everything screamed stop. Discipline outlasts emotion, because emotion fades like wind across water, while discipline builds like stone upon stone. It compounds. It strengthens over time. The person who acts without waiting to feel right becomes immune to chaos. They don't need the world to cooperate. They don't beg for the right mood. They move anyway. And that steady movement shapes their identity into someone who finishes what they start. Someone who wins quietly and consistently. So how do you build this power within yourself? Start small. Start now. Make tiny agreements and keep them. Wake up when you said you would, not for praise, but because you promised yourself. Speak calmly, even when anger burns inside. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Study, read, train, even when passion is absent. These choices may feel small, but they create a mind that obeys your command. Picture the person who lives this way. They don't need to talk about it. You won't see fireworks around them, but they are anchored. While others rise and fall with feelings, this person rises through structure, 1 hour, one choice at a time. While many drown in chaos and distraction, they float, held up by habit. They aren't dragged down by inner storms. They sail through them. They're not dramatic. They don't announce every step. But their life becomes a signal, their progress a lighthouse. Others wonder how they did it, but the answer is always the same. They obeyed their mission, not their mood. That is why they win. That is why they grow. Ask yourself now, and answer with honesty. Do I obey my moods, or do I obey my mission? Every excuse you've ever made carried a feeling behind it. Every time you quit, it was after a mood shifted. But your mission, the thing you truly want, doesn't care how you feel. It waits, and only discipline can carry you there. Emotion is a visitor. Routine is a resident. Some mornings you'll wake as if a storm has passed through your spirit, tired but clear. Other mornings, you'll wake to nothing at all. No inspiration, no passion, just quiet emptiness, like a room long abandoned. These are the days that test your foundation. Success will never be built on how you feel. It rests on what you've built, on the structure you fall back on when feelings disappear. Feelings are like passing guests, coming uninvited and leaving without warning. But your routine, that is your shelter. Your daily rituals are not visitors. They are your anchors, the residents you must care for every day. Most people break down when their emotions fade, not because they're weak, but because they never build a life stronger than their moods. They trusted motivation instead of discipline. And when the wind blew, they toppled. So what must you do? You build anchors. Anchors that hold steady no matter what storm rolls in. They don't care if you're tired or inspired. They don't wait for sunshine. A set wake-up time. A daily walk. A moment of quiet focus. An evening of stillness and reflection. Each habit becomes a declaration. I live by choice, not by chance. By commitment, not by chaos. Over time, these anchors tether you to clarity when the world tries to pull you away. Picture someone rising each morning with a simple ritual. Maybe it's lighting a candle, stretching, or journaling, or stepping outside before anyone else wakes. They do it whether the sky is clear or heavy with clouds. They do it whether joy is singing or silence presses on their chest. Neighbors may call it discipline, but in truth, it's freedom. Freedom from waiting on a mood to move them. They move regardless. And that movement creates power. Most people wait for inspiration before acting. They wait for emotion to arrive before deciding who they are. But what if you reversed it? What if you acted first and let emotion catch up later? Imagine the strength of being that steady, that intentional. Imagine not needing the perfect mood to do the necessary work. That's what anchors do. They keep you upright when everything else tries to knock you down. So ask yourself, what rituals do you hold to, even when you feel nothing? What anchors keep you steady when your emotions drift? Because the goal isn't to always feel good. The goal is to always keep going. When you build a life on anchors instead of emotions, you become someone you can trust. Someone who doesn't bend with every breeze. Someone reliable, to others and to yourself. What if the most dependable person in your life could be you? Your mind is like a wild horse. Even on quiet days, when you feel flat or numb, something stirs beneath the surface. Thoughts don't rest. They drift, leap, and spiral. One moment you're in the past, regretting a word. The next, you're in the future, worrying about what you can't control. Then comes frustration, confusion, self-criticism. Left untrained, these thoughts are like a wild horse, powerful, restless, and reckless. And if you don't learn to guide that horse, it will drag you in circles, away from everything you're trying to build. Remember this, you don't need to erase your thoughts. You're not a stone, you're not meant to be empty. But you must harness that energy and give it direction. Because a wild, untrained mind is a dangerous master, while a focused, steady mind is a loyal servant. Most people aren't destroyed by what happens to them. They're undone by their unmanaged minds, the stories they repeat, the spirals they feed, the worries they allow to run unchecked. So what's the solution? Begin taming your inner world. Each morning, write down the thoughts you want to keep. Not just your tasks, but your focus. Today, I will think about building, about progress, about peace. Speak your values aloud. I will become. I will be focused. I will be present. These aren't empty affirmations. They are mental fences, quiet boundaries, like a shepherd guiding sheep. You don't let your mind wander without care. You lead it back, again and again, to the right pasture. That's how you reclaim power. Not by force, not by silencing every thought, but by choosing which ones stay. You don't need to fight every worry. Just stop feeding it. When your focus slips, as it will, gently pull the reins. Bring it back to your mission, back to your breath, back to the present moment. This isn't about perfection, it's about leadership. And the first person you must learn to lead is yourself. Picture someone walking through an open field, holding the rope of a wild horse. It jerks, rears, bolts toward every noise and shadow. Most people watching would say, "Let it go, it's too wild." But this person doesn't. Day after day, they walk with it. They speak calmly, hold steady. They don't yank, they guide. And then one morning, something shifts. The horse stills and begins to walk beside them. That is your mind. When trained with love, patience, and firmness, progress comes quietly. At first, you may feel your thoughts still pull you too far or too fast. That's normal. But each time you bring your attention back, each time you choose purpose over panic and clarity over chaos, you're rewiring your brain. You're carving new grooves that lead to peace. Over time, your mind begins to follow your command, not by fear, but by habit. This is the quiet power of persistent mental discipline. You don't need a perfect mind, you need a trained one. A mind that doesn't fight you, but serves you. A mind that knows where to go when life grows heavy. And the only way to build it is through daily practice, small mental reps, morning intentions, midday reminders, and evening reflections. These are the rituals of someone who leads their inner world with both grace and grit. So ask yourself, are you being dragged by your thoughts, or are you leading them? Because your mind will follow something, either the noise of the world or the whisper of your will. Train it. Let it. Walk with it until one day it walks with you. Force is not violence. It is choice without delay. Too many hear the word and imagine strain, suffering, or something unnatural. But true force, the kind that transforms lives, isn't punishment or pressure. It's clarity. It's the moment you stop entertaining hesitation and move. It's the quiet declaration, I will. An action taken before doubt has the chance to speak. That is the essence of real force. Quiet, clean, final. When you feel nothing, no energy, no desire, no spark, force becomes your only path to freedom. If you wait to feel like moving, you'll wait forever. The mind craves comfort, but comfort kills progress. Force says, I will rise. I will go. I will begin, no matter what my thoughts whisper. It is the courage to act when no comfort is in sight. Why does this matter? Because most people never even take the first step. They stall. They analyze. They negotiate with themselves as if feelings were facts. They say, maybe tomorrow, maybe when I'm in the right mood, let me think it over. But nothing happens. The problem isn't ability, it's permission. They keep waiting for a sign, but no sign is coming. In that waiting, their power dies quietly. You don't need a signal, and you don't need to feel ready. You only need to decide. One sharp decision can cut through weeks of hesitation. You don't need motivation, you need motion. You take the first step, not because you're confident, but because you're committed. You act without fanfare. No crowd, no playlist, no perfect setup. And as your body moves, your mind begins to wake up and follow. This is the secret most people never learn. Motion leads emotion, not the other way around. You don't wait to feel good before you start. You start, and then you feel good. Action first, mood second. Force creates the shift, and the mind adjusts. That's why force isn't cruelty. It's kindness. It breaks the emotional lock that has kept you stuck. It opens the door your feelings have been trying to keep closed. Picture this. Someone sits in a dim, cold room. The air is heavy, nothing feels inviting. But then, they stand. No one tells them to. They just do. They walk across the room, light a lamp, open a window. The room itself hasn't changed much, but they have. In that small act, they took command. That's the quiet, unseen power of force. No dramatic soundtrack, no grand speech, just movement. Lives don't change in big public moments, but in small, private acts of force. You make the bed when you don't feel like it. You show up to work when your mind protests. You write the page, take the walk, clean the room, without waiting for desire to appear. These actions may seem ordinary, but they are foundational. They shape the identity of someone who acts, not just someone who wishes. Force is not aggression, it's ownership. You own your time, your thoughts, your response to life. Each time you move forward when it would be easier to stall, you reclaim more of yourself. That's why force feels hard at first. But in time, it becomes freedom. Because now, you decide how the day unfolds. Not your mood, not your fear, not your past. There is no perfect moment, no right feeling, no flawless condition. There is only this breath and what you choose to do with it. The people who change their lives are not those who wait for inspiration, but those who act in its absence. They move anyway. They trust that forward action, no matter how small, always brings more clarity than standing still. So ask yourself, what if I stopped waiting for a reason and just moved? What if I acted without asking permission from my feelings? What if I used force not to harm, but to heal? What if I lit that lamp, opened that window, and took the first step? Not because it was easy, but because I must. The answer is never in waiting, it's in motion. Success belongs to those who do it anyway. There's no shortage of talent, no shortage of ideas. Creativity is everywhere, sparkling in minds, filling notebooks, echoing in conversations. What the world lacks is follow-through. Not because people lack ability, but because they've been conditioned to act only when conditions are perfect, when it feels good, when excitement is high, when the wind is at their back and the path looks smooth. But life doesn't work that way, and neither does success. The real test isn't when things are easy. It's when everything inside you wants to stop. What do you do when it's raining in your spirit, when nothing excites you, when silence feels heavy? That's when the divide appears, between those who pause and those who press on, between dreamers and doers, between talkers and builders. Action and difficulty is what separates the rare from the rest. The ones who move forward anyway are the quiet winners. They don't need applause or an audience. They step into each day, rain or shine, with their mission in hand. They don't wait for the stars to align or for perfect clarity. They plant their seeds under cloudy skies. They write when tired, practice when uninspired, train when discouraged. These are the people who end up surprising the world, because they never stopped when life became uncomfortable. So how do you become one of them? It starts with a simple truth. My feelings are real, but they are not my ruler. That single thought can shift everything. Feelings are messengers, not masters. You hold the pen. So commit to the work on the dull days, the anxious days, and especially on the days you don't feel like it. Do it badly if you must, but do it. The mind craves comfort and will always whisper, wait, pause, plan a little longer. But momentum is built only by breaking that cycle. Day after day, the person who does it anyway stacks small wins. Wins that slowly build into a mountain, while others are still sketching blueprints. Discipline rarely looks dramatic, yet over time, it becomes the loudest voice in the room. Not because it shouts, but because it endures. Think of the one who keeps showing up. They wake tired, their spark gone, the noise of doubt loud. Yet still, they show up, not for applause, not for recognition, but because they said they would. Their name may never trend, and no spotlight may shine. But behind the scenes, they're building a foundation stronger than any one-day success. And when the harvest comes, people will ask, how did they do it? The answer will be quiet and simple. I kept going. I moved forward when others stopped. I didn't wait to feel good. I did the work. That's what creates momentum. That's what makes results look effortless later. It isn't magic. It's consistency in chaos. It's effort through the emotional fog. It's the discipline of not negotiating with every mood. Real transformation doesn't live in bursts of motivation. It lives in the decision to keep showing up after motivation has vanished. It's resilience. You don't ignore your feelings, but you don't let them become your ceiling. You honor them, then move anyway. Because action restores the energy you thought was gone. Each step forward reminds your soul of its purpose. Some days you'll fly, some days you'll crawl, but either way, you move. And that movement shapes your identity. Imagine if this became your reputation. Not as the loudest, not as the most gifted, but as the one who shows up, the one people can count on. You don't fade in the fog. You don't retreat at resistance. You rise, not with lightning, but with loyalty to your purpose. Trust follows, not because you promise, but because you prove. That kind of respect can't be bought. It's earned one quiet day at a time. You don't need the perfect plan, the big moment, or the golden mood. What you need is a reason, a commitment, a single sentence in your heart that says, "I will keep going, even here." Motivation may not always be there, but movement is always a choice. That's how mountains are climbed, not in leaps, but in steps. And those steps add up faster than you think. So ask yourself, what if you became that person? The one who finishes what they start. The one who keeps their word, not only to others, but to themselves. The one who moves forward even when it's hard, boring, or unseen. That version of you already exists. It just needs to be called forth through action. Start now, not next week, not when it feels easier. Now, because the one who does it anyway is the one who ends up winning quietly. Still waters run deep. Use the silence to turn inward. When you feel nothing, it's tempting to believe something inside you has disappeared. You tell yourself the fire is gone. That passion and purpose have faded. You search for the spark, but all you find is stillness. And in that silence, doubt whispers, maybe you've lost it. But what if this stillness isn't the end? What if it's not failure, but the doorway to something deeper? Stillness is often not a downfall, but a hidden beginning. It doesn't mean you're falling behind. It can mean your spirit is preparing for a higher level of growth. In noise, you survive by reacting, performing, and staying distracted. But in silence, you are forced to discover. That's why so many run from it. They panic when things grow quiet. They grab for distractions, endless scrolling, empty conversations, anything to escape. But distraction is the enemy of revelation. Fill the silence too much, and you never hear what your life is truly trying to tell you. Complaints drown out wisdom. Comparison kills clarity, and busyness becomes a blanket hiding the truth beneath. Silence offers no cover. It demands that you face yourself. And in that raw, uncomfortable moment, you finally have the chance to see what's really there. That's where truth begins, not in noise, but in raw stillness. You must do the opposite of what the world teaches. Sit with the silence and mine it for gold. Don't rush to fill the pause. Don't run from it. Instead, start asking better questions. What is life trying to show me right now? Where have I been avoiding the truth? What parts of me are asking to be seen, not silenced? These are the questions that turn stillness into strength. In the quiet, your purpose won't shout, it whispers. It comes slowly, piece by piece, with quiet conviction. And you will only hear it if you stay long enough. If you stop demanding quick answers and simply allow space to listen, clarity will emerge. It doesn't appear on command. It rises in the silence most people avoid. The more you listen, the more direction begins to take shape, quietly, steadily, powerfully. So what should you do in this stillness? Embrace solitude as a sacred teacher. Don't fear your own company. Lean into it. Reflect with a notebook. Pour your thoughts onto the page. Take long walks without your phone. No music, just you and your thoughts. Notice the patterns that repeat. Ask yourself what themes keep showing up. Often, your next step has already been whispered. You just haven't slowed down enough to hear it. Stillness is not inactivity. It's a different kind of movement, a journey inward. Picture someone sitting beneath a tree, not speaking, not moving, just breathing. Hours pass, and on the outside it looks like nothing is happening. But inside, storms begin to calm. Questions form, and truth resurfaces. Eventually, you rise, not in confusion, but with direction. That is stillness fulfilled, power gathered in silence. We're trained to measure value through constant activity, speed, and production. Yet sometimes, the deepest evolution happens in the unseen places. In moments no one witnesses. On days when all you did was sit still, ask hard questions, and finally admit the truth. That stillness is never wasted. It's essential. It's where noise fades and clarity starts to shine. Think of the seasons. Even the earth rests. Winter arrives, and everything slows. Trees shed their leaves. The ground hardens, animals retreat. It looks lifeless, but beneath the surface the soil is renewing, roots are deepening, the system is preparing. Your still seasons are the same. They may appear empty, but that's where strength gathers and depth forms before the bloom. Stillness reveals what constant motion hides. When you're always busy, it's easy to overlook your fears, wounds, and unanswered questions. But pause for long enough, and they rise to the surface. It's uncomfortable, yes, but necessary. Because until you face what's hidden, you can't rise beyond it. Stillness forces you to meet the real you. And that's where transformation begins, not in pretending, but in presence. So ask yourself honestly, What might I discover if I stop escaping silence and start asking what it holds for me? What wisdom lies beneath the noise? What truth have I buried under distractions? Don't fear the pause. Step into it and let it teach you. Because your next level often isn't found in more noise, but in the stillness you've been avoiding. This quiet isn't weakness or a dead end, it's a doorway. And it isn't asking you to do more. It's asking you to listen better, to stop searching outside for what only your inner world can answer. And when you finally honor the silence, when you stay long enough to truly listen, you don't rise with noise. You rise with clarity, with direction, and with a strength that cannot be shaken. One small victory each day builds a fortress in the mind. And in those moments when you feel nothing, no spark, no urgency, no clear path, that fortress is what holds you. Your first instinct may be to do nothing, to sit in the fog and wait for it to lift. But inside that hollow space lies one powerful tool, a small win. One action, one promise kept, one task completed. It may seem minor in the moment, but it's everything. In the middle of emotional drought, forward motion doesn't need to be fast. It only needs to be real. A single act reminds you that you are not powerless. Each small victory lays another brick in the fortress of your mind, rebuilding trust with yourself. You remember you're someone who follows through, even without motivation. And that is stronger than any passing spark. That is integrity. This is why so many slip into despair. They wait for a breakthrough, not realizing breakthroughs are never given. They're built, one steady action at a time. Small wins rarely look heroic. They're quiet, easy to dismiss. Yet they form the scaffolding of future strength. You clean the kitchen. You answer the overdue message. You drink water instead of reaching for distraction. Each choice whispers, I'm still moving. Because progress doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's silent, steady, and unshakable. Sometimes it's just a whisper, a breath, a single step. But when repeated, it becomes momentum. And momentum, no matter how small, is what saves you from slipping into paralysis. So what's your task today? Not a perfect day, not a massive goal, just one thing. Sweep the floor. Write one paragraph. Fix the hinge you've ignored. Finish what you've been postponing, not because anyone is watching. Not for praise, not for points, but for proof. Proof that you're still capable of showing up. Proof that even when the world feels stuck, you are not. We often overestimate what it takes to feel better. We imagine it requires a huge success, a dramatic epiphany, a breakthrough moment. But most of the time, it's much simpler. It's the quiet stability that comes from doing something, anything. One small act of completion reminds your soul it can still engage, still create, still move forward in a world that feels faded. A single victory turns down the volume of despair. Picture someone lost in confusion, thoughts tangled, the future unclear. Instead of surrendering to the fog, they make their bed. It's not the solution, but it's a start. Then they write a short plan. They follow one line from it. No applause, no drama, but something shifts. And day after day, those simple acts form a structure, a framework that anchors them, even when storms return. Life may still bring chaos, but now it has cornerstones. Every small victory rewrites your inner script. It says, I am someone who follows through. And that belief matters more than inspiration. Because the person who believes they finish becomes the one who does. You don't need to wait for better emotions. You need to build better patterns. And patterns begin with tiny, daily choices. No excuses. No waiting. Just one honest act. Stillness does not mean uselessness. Emotional flatness doesn't mean you're broken. It only means you're in a quieter season. And the work of that season is maintenance. Not through grand leaps, but through preservation. Resilience isn't built in fire. It's built in routine, in doing the right thing without waiting for the rush of motivation. That's where identity is forged. That's where real confidence grows. Not loud, but lasting. Even nature shows us this. The strongest trees grow slowly, quietly, over time. Their roots sink deep, unseen, but steady. That's what one small act is, a root pushing further, a sign you haven't quit. While others wait for perfect conditions, you water what you can. You move the needle an inch, and those inches, stacked together, become miles. That's how you build a life no storm can wash away. The truth is, you don't need to feel like doing it. You just need to do it. Then, little by little, your feelings catch up. The fog doesn't vanish at once, it thins. Each task completed, each word written, Each dish cleaned makes the path ahead clearer. Discipline isn't cold, it's compassionate. It gives structure when your heart feels hollow. One task is enough, then the next and the next. You may think today's small win is too minor to matter, but that one act could be the thread that keeps everything from unraveling. That single step can anchor you when your thoughts spin out of control. Never underestimate the quiet rituals. They aren't filler, they're foundation. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you become someone worth trusting, especially in your own eyes. So ask yourself, what is my one small victory today? What's the one thing I can finish, not for applause, but for stability? Because in completing that one thing, you declare, I'm still here. I'm still capable. I still matter. And from that whisper, strength begins to return. Purpose flickers again, not all at once, but just enough to help you rise. When everything feels lost, let one small win guide you home. The fire comes after the friction. You long for that energy again. The spark that once made you leap out of bed with purpose, sharp, alive, unstoppable. But now it feels flat, so you wait. You wait for the fire to return, hoping one morning you'll rise with burning passion in your bones. But here's the truth few want to admit. The fire doesn't come before the work, it comes from the work. And the work only begins when you push yourself through the friction of stillness, boredom, and doubt. A fire is lit by striking, not by sitting. Heat is created by resistance, not rest. That's how fire works in nature, and how it works in your spirit. You don't wait for perfect conditions. You move, you grind. Through that motion, the spark is born. Most people never realize this. They chase feelings instead of feeding flames. They wait to feel motivated before acting, hoping for a magical moment of readiness. But motivation isn't the starting point, it's the byproduct. It follows discipline. It follows the decision to sit down, to step forward, to keep going even when your heart feels cold. And those who live only on inspiration lose their way when it's gone. But the ones who act anyway, they discover that fire always follows action. So how do you create that spark when everything inside feels empty? You show up anyway. You sit down to write, even if the page stays blank. You lace your shoes and walk, even when the air feels heavy. You practice your craft, even when every part of you feels numb. You don't fake energy, you earn it. Not by waiting to feel ready, but by acting your way into feeling. Every repetition without passion is like striking a match. It may not catch the first time, or the 5th, or even the 10th. But eventually, one will ignite. And when it does, all that dry effort becomes fuel. Picture someone dragging themselves to the desk for 10 straight days, still dry, still uncertain. But on the 11th, something shifts. A sentence flows. A solution appears. A spark breaks through. It wasn't a gift, it was earned. That's how the fire returns, quietly, unexpectedly, but only to the one who kept showing up. The one who didn't wait to feel like it. The one who put in the dull reps with no praise, no applause, no instant reward. And that's what makes the fire yours. Not luck, not magic. Ownership. Consistency is the flint. Discipline is the steel. Repetition is the strike. Together, they create a flame, not in one flash, but slowly, over time. That's why showing up matters. Not because every day is powerful, but because any day could be. You never know which repetition will unlock momentum. So you keep striking, even in silence. Especially in silence. The spark is buried under layers of resistance, emotional numbness, mental fog, and physical fatigue. It won't rise on its own. It needs friction, so you bring it. You bring your presence to the page, the gym, the craft. Even if your spirit feels flat, your body leads. And in that motion, an ember begins to form. It's small, almost invisible, but alive, because you moved. Never underestimate the power of effort without inspiration. That quiet effort is the raw material of greatness. Everyone admires the blaze, but few respect the spark. Yet the spark is where everything begins. So if today feels dry, that's good. It means you're close. If the work feels dull, that's great. It means the friction is building. Every act done without passion becomes fuel for the moment the fire finally breaks through. There will be days you feel nothing, days you question your path and wonder if any of it matters. But those days define you. Not the easy ones, but the heavy ones. The days you keep going without reason. Those are the days that build your inner fire. One day the world will see. You're not lost. You're not broken. You're simply waiting on the fire. And that fire is waiting on you. It won't be found in more thinking. It's found in doing. The moment you act in defiance of the void, the fire begins to notice. The moment you move through the stillness, you strike the match again. It may flicker at first, but it's coming. Keep striking. Ask yourself, what if the fire you long for is waiting on the other side of your dullest effort? What if everything you're seeking is hidden in the grind, not the glory? What if showing up today, tired, blank, uninspired, is the very act that sets tomorrow on fire? You don't need to feel alive to create something that breathes life back into you. You just need to strike. One day soon, the spark will catch. And when it does, you'll know you earned it. People rarely fail because of pain. They fail because of silence. You expect the big loss or sharp failure to break you. But more often, it's not pain that ends a journey. It's the silence, the emotional numbness, the long stretch of days when nothing feels urgent, nothing excites you, and even survival feels vague. Storms test your strength, but fog tests your will. And most people aren't defeated by chaos. They're defeated by quiet. It's not life's violence that stops you. It's the grayness, the flat days when everything feels meaningless. The danger of numbness is its whisper, why bother? And if you listen too long, you stop moving without realizing it. That's why this season demands awareness. When the fog rolls in, nothing feels urgent. Nothing seems clear. Your mission, your goals, your energy, all blur into a tired haze. But it's here, in this quiet middle, that the real decisions are made. Not in passion, not in the peak, but in the silence. You either let the silence swallow your purpose, or you whisper back with action. Not loud, not glorious, but steady, intentional, alive. This is how builders are made, not in fire, but in fog. When the thrill is gone, and you still move. When you keep doing what you said you'd do. When you honor the promises you made to yourself when the world still made sense. That's what separates builders from drifters. One holds the line, the other lets it fade. And it's a quiet choice, unseen by others, yet defining everything. So what do you do when life feels shapeless? You create structure. You give form to the formless. You keep your schedule. You make your bed. You repeat your affirmations, even if your voice shakes. You write your mission again and again until silence begins to answer. You don't chase the fire. You rebuild the furnace, brick by brick, through small, consistent actions. That's the secret most people miss. Small structures defeat big numbness. You don't have to fix your whole life. You just have to keep the rhythm. Go to bed on time. Eat real food. Move your body. Speak kindly to yourself. These may feel simple, even dull, but they are anchors. And when everything else drifts, an anchor is enough to keep you steady. Picture someone walking through a gray day with no joy, no sorrow, just emptiness. Yet they rise. They stretch. They brush their teeth. They open the journal and write one page. They show up at work. They try again. No applause, no spotlight. But the future is watching. The strength being built in silence is real, quiet, but unshakable. The one who moves in silence becomes unstoppable. Because if you can keep going without applause, without clarity, without energy, you've built something unbreakable. Most people can sprint when the crowd is cheering. But can you walk when the world is silent? Can you carry your purpose when it feels invisible? That's the test the fog gives you. And your actions are the answer. Silence isn't your enemy. It's your mirror. It shows you what's truly there. When the noise fades, you're left with yourself, your thoughts, your choices, your character. This is where the inner work deepens, where real alignment begins. It's not thrilling, but it's essential. Growth is forged in stillness far more than in the spotlight. You may want to wait for the fire to return before acting, but here's the truth. Action comes first, feeling follows. Always. You speak before you believe. You move before you're ready. You write before the words feel right. That's how momentum is built, not by emotion, but by repetition. Show up long enough and the silence begins to break. Your identity is shaped more by what you do in the fog than in the moments of passion. When the heart is numb and the mind is tired, but the hands still move, that's power. That's discipline. That's the mark of someone no longer ruled by moods, but led by mission. And in time, that mission becomes the very force that reignites the fire. You won't always feel strong. You won't always feel inspired. But you can always choose to be faithful. You can stay loyal to the process, even when it feels like it leads nowhere. Because faithfulness builds a foundation emotions cannot shake. That's resilience, not speed, but staying. Not performance, but persistence. So ask yourself, will I let silence define me? Or will I move anyway? Will I drift? Or will I build? You don't need to win the whole war today. You just need to win this hour. One action, one step forward, then another. Over time, those steps form a path that leads you out of the fog and into a life no longer dependent on perfect conditions. This silence may feel like an ending, but it's not. It's an invitation to build something quieter, stronger, deeper. A life not built on hype or adrenaline, but on choice, on character, on steady motion. So pick one thing and move. Even the smallest step counts. Consistency is the slowest form of power, yet the most unstoppable. You want results now, proof that your effort matters, that progress is real. But the greatest power you'll ever build isn't fast. It isn't flashy. It isn't celebrated at first. The real power is consistency, quiet, unseen, unpraised, but impossible to break. Fireworks may dazzle the crowd, but it's the steady flame that warms the home. In a world obsessed with feelings and chasing emotional highs, the person who learns to follow a rhythm wins. Not because they're the smartest, not because they have more talent, but because they keep showing up, day after day, rain or shine, inspired or not. And that rhythm becomes a revolution. Not overnight, but slowly, until everything around them begins to shift. Consistency is rare because it feels ordinary. It's not thrilling, it's not exciting, it doesn't shower you with instant reward. At first, it seems like nothing's changing. But over time, something solid begins to rise. You stand taller. You speak clearer. You begin to think with greater precision, and your actions align with your purpose. Before you even realize it, you're becoming someone new, someone dependable, someone strong. And eventually, the world takes notice, not because you declared it, but because you became it. The problem for most people is this. They crave sparks, not systems. They chase adrenaline, not rhythm. But strength is never born in a burst. It's built in routine, in daily patterns, in promises kept. And the hardest part isn't starting, it's repeating. When the mood fades, when the weather shifts, when no one is watching, that's when consistency either lives or dies. So what can you do in a world full of distractions and instant gratification? You pick a rhythm, something simple, something daily, and you guard it like gold. Don't ask if you feel like it. Just do it. Let the routine carry you when motivation won't. Let it become your anchor. You're not chasing perfection, you're chasing presence. You're allowing discipline to shape your day so life doesn't decide it for you. Picture someone building a wall, stone by stone, while others laugh, sleep, or quit and restart 100 times. This builder keeps placing stones, slowly and silently, day after day. It may look boring, but years later, that wall stands as a fortress, strong, tall, reliable. And the builder? Unshakable, because they didn't wait for the world to push them. They pushed themselves. You must decide what matters more, the rush or the result. Do you want sparks that fade or strength that lasts? One gives you a moment, the other leaves a legacy. Most people don't fail because they lack vision. They fail because they lack repetition. They never stay long enough at one thing to let it grow. But you can. You must. Discipline is not harshness. It is love. Love for your future. Love for your mission. You don't show up every day because it's easy. You show up because you believe in who you are becoming. You write, you train, you learn. Not because every session feels magical, but because each one builds momentum. And momentum, when protected, turns into lasting power. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that endures. Yes, it will feel boring at times. That's normal. Anything meaningful requires boredom before brilliance, repetition before results. But if you trust the rhythm, if you stay with it even when it feels flat, one day you'll wake up and realize everything has shifted. Not overnight, but undeniably. Your habits have reshaped your identity. Let your routine be your protection. Let it carry you on the days you feel nothing. Let it lead when your emotions are scattered. You don't need more motivation, you need systems. One page written, one rep completed, one promise kept. Over time, these small acts become your foundation. A place where your soul can stand when the storms arrive. And they will come. That's why consistency isn't optional, it's essential. Forget about proving something to others. Let your consistency prove something to yourself. That you are reliable, that you are loyal to your own future, that you're not here to flash and fade. You are here to build and endure. Every repeated act is a vote for the person you're becoming. Let your habits speak louder than your hopes. So ask yourself, are you chasing sparks or building strength? Do you crave the temporary thrill or the lasting transformation? The choice is yours every day, every hour. And every time you return to your rhythm, when it's cold, when it's quiet, when no one is watching, you become someone rare, someone who finishes what they start, someone the world can trust. You don't need to rush. You don't need to impress. You simply need to return. Return to the rhythm. Return to the work. Let your footsteps carve the path forward. Let your days stack until, one day, you're standing on a mountain you built. One stone, one habit, one choice at a time. The world may never cheer for your discipline, but your future will. Your word to yourself is sacred, and it must be kept no matter what. You've made promises before, to others, to yourself. Some you kept, some you didn't. Maybe you said, tomorrow I'll begin, or this time I'll stay consistent, and then you didn't. That's human. But if you want to rise from the pit of numbness and emptiness, drifting through life without a pulse, there is only one way up. Treat your word to yourself like a sacred vow. Not a wish, not a maybe, but an unbreakable, non-negotiable vow. Every time you say, I will, and follow through, even when you don't feel like it, you build something most people never touch: integrity. Not the public kind, but the private kind. The kind that lives in your bones and stands tall in silence. It becomes the unseen steel in your spine, the invisible framework of a life that cannot be toppled by moods, noise, or failure. Why is this so powerful? Because when you believe your own word, the world loses its grip on you. You stop needing applause. You stop waiting for permission. You stop chasing validation. You begin to lead yourself. And when storms come, and they will, you don't collapse. You don't lose yourself in the chaos. Because you've proven, again and again, that your word matters to the only person who truly counts: you. Real transformation doesn't happen when you impress others. It happens when you impress yourself. When you set a rule and follow it. When you say, I'll show up, and you do. It changes everything. Not because it's convenient, not because you're in the mood, but because you said you would. The game isn't won through grand gestures. It's won through small vows kept in silence. So what's the real path forward? Speak less, follow through more. Don't announce your plans to the world, prove them in private. Set a time, then show up. Make your vows small, but sacred. Don't say, I'll change everything. Say, I'll do this at this time. Then do it. No excuses, no negotiations. With every step, you're building a track record with yourself. And that record matters more than any audience. Excuses may sound clever, even justified, but each one chips away at your integrity. Break your word often enough, and you stop trusting yourself. That's where despair grows, not in failure, but in the loss of belief in your own voice. So instead of chasing perfection, aim for alignment. Say only what you can do, then do it. Picture someone who says, I'll wake at 5, and they do. Not for a medal, not because they feel like it, but because they said they would. That kind of discipline carries a power that can't be bought or faked. Over time, it becomes unshakable. Because their foundation isn't emotion, it's integrity. A quiet strength no storm can move. There's something almost sacred about becoming someone you can count on. When your word becomes law in your own life, you step out of the fog. You move from chaos to clarity. You stop second-guessing. You stop delaying. The decision has already been made, and you honor it as you would a vow to someone you love. Only this time, the vow is to yourself. The smallest promise kept to yourself carries more power than the biggest promise shouted to the world. You don't need to announce your goals to strangers. You don't need loud affirmations. What you need is private proof. One act a day, one vow honored. These are the steps that rebuild belief, restore strength, and light the way out of numbness into purpose. You may think it's just one skipped workout, one missed writing session, or one snoozed alarm. But these aren't just forgotten tasks. They're tiny cracks in the trust you have with yourself. And too many cracks can make a life fragile. But every time you show up, it's a repair, a reinforcement, a quiet declaration. I can rely on me. Imagine if every promise you made to yourself became law, non-negotiable, not dependent on mood, simply true. How different would your health look? Your work, your focus, your peace? You'd move through life with a quiet kind of power, a strength that doesn't need noise, but carries weight. Don't underestimate the compound effect of self-trust. Over weeks, months, and years, it shapes you into someone others can sense without you saying a word. You walk into rooms differently. You respond to life differently. You're not reactive, you're rooted because you know who you are. And that certainty isn't built on feelings. It's built on proof. So make the next vow small. Make it honest. Make it doable. Then honor it like a law. Not because it's easy, but because it's who you are now. Each sacred vow kept takes you one step closer to a life built on inner strength, not outer permission. And that's a life worth living. The journey out of numbness isn't loud or dramatic. It's a quiet rise, built on whispered vows followed by silent actions no one sees, but you feel them. And over time, those small choices stack into a version of you that cannot be broken. A version of you that trusts, moves, and leads is waiting. So ask yourself, what would your life look like if every promise you made to yourself was treated as law? Make one today, then follow through. Tomorrow, make another. The world may not notice, but your soul will. And that's where everything begins. The moment you want to quit is the doorway to breakthrough. It happens to everyone. That heavy moment when you stand in the middle of your effort, your goals, your routine, and feel nothing. No fire, no momentum, no joy. You look back at all the time, energy, and belief you've poured in and wonder, is this even worth it? Your mind whispers that you're wasting your time, that you should stop. But in that exact moment, you must double down. Not walk away. Not pause. Not negotiate. Double down. Why? Because that isn't failure speaking. It's resistance. It's doubt's final grip, trying to pull you away before the breakthrough. This is the test few ever talk about, the quiet crisis that comes just before the shift. Most people turn back, not because they can't win, but because they don't realize how close they are. The deeper reward always waits just beyond discomfort. One more step into the dark. You're not broken in that moment. You're close. That wall of numbness, that fog of indifference, it's not a stop sign. It's a threshold. Something in you is about to evolve, and the mind resists because change is uncomfortable. So what do most people do? They retreat. They stop swinging. They walk away from the well when they were inches from water. But not you. Learn to see that voice, not as truth, but as a signal. So what do you do when that quitting voice shows up? You breathe. You plant your feet. You square your shoulders and move forward. Even if it feels mechanical. Even if it feels fake. Even if your hands are heavy and your heart is silent. Because in that moment, your compass isn't emotion, it's commitment. You made a vow to yourself, and that's what you honor. Not the fleeting moods of a hard day. Think of someone digging a well. Day after day, they strike dry dirt. Every swing feels useless. But just when they're ready to quit, one more strike releases a surge of water. It wasn't luck. It wasn't magic. It was persistence. The breakthrough came not from trying harder, but from refusing to stop. Loyalty to the mission, to the process, to the promise. That's what carried them. There's a lie that says if it feels wrong, it must be wrong. The truth? Some of your most important steps will feel empty. That doesn't make them worthless. It makes them the foundation. You're training yourself to keep going when no one applauds, when your effort feels invisible, when the road stretches endlessly. That's where true character is forged, not in comfort, but in continuance. The difference between those who win and those who don't is rarely talent or intelligence. It's endurance. It's the willingness to keep walking when others sit down. It's the refusal to confuse temporary feelings with permanent reality. You might feel defeated, but feelings aren't facts. What you do next matters more than how you feel right now. That next action could be the one that changes everything. You're closer than you think. That moment when you feel farthest from progress is often the final gasp of your old self. It's clinging to safety, to staying small, to resisting change. But the breakthrough lies just one layer deeper. One more push, one more rep, one more uncomfortable call. That's all it takes. Not a miracle, just a choice. Don't stop here. Not now. Your mind will tempt you with escape. Take a break. Come back when it feels easier. But if you walk away in that moment, you may never return with the same momentum. You'll restart, but something vital will be gone. The fire you built was meant to carry you through this, not around it. So stay, swing, strike, show up. You're allowed to feel tired, even to question yourself. But don't mistake discomfort for defeat. You're not failing. You're forming, sharpening, becoming. Every effort, even when it feels pointless, is adding strength to your foundation. Don't break your own momentum because of one low-energy day. Feeling drained doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're growing. Breakthroughs don't announce themselves. They don't arrive with a parade. They slip in when doubt is heavy, when your hands are blistered, when your eyes grow dim. They appear as results you didn't expect, a shift in your thinking, a door that opens simply because you didn't walk away. And when it comes, you'll see it was born not from excitement, but from endurance. So ask yourself, when that quitting voice shows up, will I treat it as truth or as a sign? A sign that I'm close, almost there. And if I hold on a little longer, I'll cross that invisible line most never reach. The choice is yours, to retreat or to rise, to back down or push forward through the fog. You don't need a grand burst of energy. You need one decision, one step, one swing, repeated until the silence breaks, until the well opens, until the results begin to chase you. You're not waiting for motivation. You're working to earn momentum. And momentum belongs to the one who refuses to quit at the edge. The future honors those who show up without applause. There's a quiet strength few will ever understand. The strength of the one who works when no one is watching. No applause, no spotlight, no praise, just the raw weight of a promise made long ago. They rise early, stay late, move in silence. That person is building something deeper than success. They're building substance. And that's who you must become. Because the future doesn't reveal itself to the loud or the flashy. It reveals itself to those who keep showing up when it's just them and the work. A pause may feel good, but it can distort your direction. It can feed your ego, or worse, make you dependent on it. But silence never lies. Silence strips the work down to its essence. When you keep going without recognition, you prove something sacred, that your purpose is greater than your need for validation. That's rare. That's powerful. Most people don't last in silence. They start strong, but fade when no one claps. They work hard when seen, but slip when unseen. But if you can thrive in silence, if you can push without permission, improve without an audience, and stay steady without attention, you become a force that cannot be shaken. You no longer bend to moods or external rewards. You bend only to your mission. How do you build that kind of character? You start small. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. Just do one difficult thing each day that no one will ever see. Clean your desk. Study your craft. Write in your journal. Train your body. Learn in secret. Then do it again tomorrow. This becomes your private code, a standard that needs no witness to be honored. These invisible efforts, compounded over time, create visible transformation. You don't need to post about it. You don't need to talk about it. You simply do it. And one day you'll look around and realize you've built something solid, quietly, slowly, fully. While others search for shortcuts, you were laying bricks. Now you stand on a foundation they can't see, but you can feel. Picture someone rising before the sun. No alarm blaring. No eyes watching. Just steady breath, calm hands, and clear intent. They sit down to write, to lift, to study, or to pray. The world sleeps, but they build, piece by piece, day by day. No reward today, but they know it's working. Years later, others will see the results and call it talent or luck. But it wasn't luck. It was consistency and silence. That's the truth most people miss. The unseen days count the most, because they shape who you are when nothing is on the line. No one to impress, no one to disappoint. Just you and your values. Your response in those moments defines you, not in theory, but in practice. That's how identity is forged. Not by what you say, but by what you do when no one is watching. Every silent choice is a vote for the person you are becoming. It's easy to act with integrity when eyes are on you. But true discipline is born when you're alone. When the temptation to skip, delay, or give in feels strongest, and you choose not to, that is power. That is leadership. And that is strength no one can take from you. The world may reward noise, but life rewards depth. The deeper your roots, the stronger your future. So don't fear the quiet. Embrace it. It means you're in the real work now. It means you're not performing. You're growing. Let your habits speak louder than your posts. Let your discipline become your legacy. Let your unseen labor turn into your unshakable edge. Think about your daily rhythm. Are you consistent when the audience disappears? Do your goals stay alive behind closed doors, or only when attention shows up? Because the truth is, growth doesn't care who's watching. Progress doesn't require a stage. It requires commitment, repetition, devotion, especially when it feels like no one notices. That's when it matters most. If you want to become unshakable, train yourself to thrive in obscurity. Move with urgency even when there's no deadline. Stay sharp even when no one is checking. When you develop that kind of private discipline, the results eventually speak for themselves, not in noise, but in weight, in calm, in confidence, in undeniable outcomes. So ask yourself, what do I do when no one is looking? What effort do I give when there's no promise of reward? Those answers will shape your life more than any burst of motivation, more than praise, more than a crowd. They reveal who you truly are and who you're becoming. Start today. Do something small, hard, and unseen. Then repeat it tomorrow. Build in the dark, train in silence. Refine your habits until they become instinct. Let the future come not because you chased it, but because you prepared for it when no one was watching. Let the world stay noisy. Let others chase the spotlight. You have something greater, a code, a rhythm, a standard. Honor it in secret. And over time, you'll rise with a strength no one can deny. That is the reward for those who build in silence. And it begins with the choice you make today when no one sees. Resistance isn't a sign you're lost. It's proof you're on the right track. You might think the hard days mean you're off course. You assume that if the path were right, it would feel easier, smoother. But growth doesn't work that way. When you climb uphill, your legs burn. When you lift heavier weight, your muscles strain. When you step into the unfamiliar, your mind resists. That's not failure. It's confirmation. It means you've gone beyond what's comfortable, beyond the ordinary. Discomfort is proof that something new is happening. Most people avoid that friction. They reach the edge and stop, telling themselves it shouldn't be this hard. But that's where they're wrong. It has to be this hard, because growth always demands resistance. No one grows while staying the same. Friction is the entry fee to strength. The question isn't, why is this happening? The real question is, will I lean into it? Or step back into comfort where nothing changes? Resistance isn't a warning sign. It's a marker telling you that you've reached the threshold. Every time you feel stretched, challenged, or unsure, life is showing you where the next level begins. But it won't hand it to you. It will test you. And if you panic or quit when resistance appears, you miss the very thing you were chasing. You miss the moment when struggle turns into strength. So how do you use resistance as your compass? First, expect it. Don't be shocked when the path gets heavy. Don't waste energy on surprise. Welcome it. Anticipate it. Remind yourself, this is supposed to be difficult. That way, when it hits, you won't retreat. You'll recognize it and press forward with greater purpose. This is where growth begins. Think of someone learning a new craft, a new language, or a new skill. At first, their hands fumble, their thoughts tangle, progress crawls. It feels awkward, even frustrating. But they don't give up. They stay in the resistance. They stumble forward. They keep practicing. And slowly, things shift. One day, the words connect. The hands move with ease. What was once clumsy becomes second nature. And it only happens because they didn't retreat when it was hard. That is the path to mastery. Messy, repetitive, unrewarding at first. But beneath the struggle, something powerful is forming. Something worth the burn. And if you walk away too soon, you'll never see it. Most people never experience the reward because they quit in the middle. They mistake tension for failure. But it's the tension that molds them into something stronger. Remember this. The hardest part of any journey isn't the beginning. It's the middle. That moment when the excitement of starting has faded, but the reward hasn't yet arrived. That's where most give up. But it's also where the strongest rise. They lean into the boredom. They stay with the struggle. They know pressure means progress. Resistance is proof you're exactly where you need to be. You're not failing when things get hard. You're breaking through. You're shedding old habits, stretching into something better. Growth doesn't feel like inspiration. It feels like effort, strain, friction. Stop waiting for ease and start embracing challenge as the sign you're on the right path. Because if it doesn't challenge you, it cannot change you. Your greatest growth won't come wrapped in confidence. It will show up in breakdowns, in doubts, in the days you wonder if it's worth it. But if you keep showing up in those moments, if you keep going when everything says stop, you become someone your old self wouldn't recognize. Someone forged in fire, not comfort. Someone real. Someone resilient. So the next time resistance appears, don't flinch and don't dramatize it. Welcome it. Say to yourself, this means I'm on the right path. Let it focus you, not frustrate you. Let it sharpen your practice. Let it reveal what's weak and highlight what's already growing stronger. Resistance isn't your enemy, it's your trainer, and it never wastes time on those going nowhere. So don't ask for an easier path. Ask for stronger legs. Ask for a deeper reason. Remind yourself, I am in the process of becoming. And becoming isn't smooth, it's jagged. It isn't linear, it's chaotic. But inside that chaos, you're building capacity, depth, and clarity. One day, what once felt impossible becomes your new baseline. Not because life got easier, but because you became stronger. That's what most people miss. The breakthrough is rarely dramatic. It's quiet. It shows up after you've endured the grind, after you've faced the wall and walked through it anyway. It comes on the day you nearly gave up, but didn't. And while the world may call it talent or luck, you'll know it was resistance that made you ready. So ask yourself, what if your hardest moments weren't signs of failure, but proof you're finally on the right path? What if the friction, the doubt, the fatigue aren't curses, but clues, signals that you're growing in real time? Don't run from it. Don't numb it. Walk into it with your eyes open and your back straight. Resistance means something is working. It means your edges are being tested. It means you're no longer who you used to be. And if you hold on just a little longer, you'll discover that everything you've been working for wasn't far away. It was simply waiting beyond the point where most people stop. But you're not most people. Keep going. Excellence is built in the absence of feeling. We're taught to wait for the lightning bolt, the perfect mood, the divine spark that makes creation effortless and joyful. But excellence doesn't work that way. Greatness isn't born in bursts. It's forged in rhythm, not in fire, but in discipline. The truth is, waiting to feel inspired is just procrastination in disguise. If you want to build something lasting, art, skill, strength, you must learn to move whether your heart sings or stays silent. The greatest artists, thinkers, and builders didn't rise because they felt inspired every day. They rose because they showed up at the canvas, the page, the forge, again and again. Even when it felt dull, even when doubt whispered. And often, it was in their emptiest hours that their finest work was born. Why? Because they trusted the process, not their mood. That's the difference between amateurs and masters. Waiting to feel ready is a habit you must break. If you hand your creativity over to your moods, it will vanish. You'll live in cycles of false starts and unfinished ideas. Instead, build a ritual. Set a time. Guard it as sacred. When the clock strikes, you begin. No debate. No bargaining. You don't ask yourself if you feel like it. You begin because you already decided. You lead with your hands, your body, your breath. You let motion carry you where feeling cannot. It may start dull, clumsy, or tired, but action has a way of waking the spirit. It's not the heart that starts the fire, it's the hands. And when they move long enough, the fire arrives quietly, slowly. Soon your heart begins to follow where discipline has already walked. Picture someone sitting at a desk. The light is dim, their eyes are heavy, the page blank. They don't feel like a genius. They don't feel like a creator. Yet they write one line, then another. The work seems ordinary. But over time, something takes shape. A sentence becomes a rhythm. A rhythm becomes a voice. And that voice, built in silence, will one day roar. This is how masterpieces are made. Not in wild bursts of passion, but in stillness. In repetition. In devotion to a standard that doesn't depend on energy or emotion. Some of the greatest works in history were created on days when the artist felt nothing special, but they showed up anyway. And showing up turned the ordinary into something sacred. There's a lie that great work comes from great feelings. The truth is, great work comes from great habits. Inspiration is unreliable. It's a luxury. What's reliable is the chair, the tools, the moment you begin. That's where the spark lives. Not in your emotions, but in your decision to start. Set your time. Make it daily, even if it's just 15 minutes. Show up, touch your craft. Speak your vision, move your body, sketch the plan. Don't chase perfection, chase presence. Be there, even when you don't feel brilliant. Because every session lays a brick. And one day, you'll look up and see a structure built not by feeling, but by faithful action. Think of every time you didn't want to work, and did it anyway. That's power. That's where greatness lives. Not in the highlight reel, but in the unseen moments when you rose instead of waiting. Excellence is earned in those private hours, in small choices, in invisible efforts repeated until they echo with strength. People will call it talent. They'll say you're lucky to be inspired. But they won't see the 100 dull days, the discarded drafts, the messy rehearsals. They'll see the result and miss the process. But you'll know. You'll remember every time you worked through boredom, fatigue, and doubt, and chose not to quit. That is the story behind every masterpiece. It's okay if your work feels average today. It's okay if your thoughts don't flow. What matters is that you do the work anyway. Don't worship your feelings, command them. Let your actions teach your mind that creation is not optional. It's a discipline, a responsibility. And the more you treat it that way, the more it becomes part of who you are. Not just something you do when the stars align. Ask yourself honestly, what could I create if I stopped waiting to feel ready? What idea would be finished? What skill would be mastered? What progress would I have made if I trusted action over inspiration? The answer is simple, everything would change. Because you'd stop letting emotion lead and start letting commitment build. Make a promise to yourself, I will show up. I will work. Not because I feel like it, but because I chose to. And I'll keep showing up until the work shapes me into someone I've never been before. That's how you create something real. That's how you build something that lasts. You don't need to feel ready. You need to begin. Begin tired. Begin uncertain. Begin unprepared. Just begin. Let repetition refine you. Let the process surprise you. Because the spark you've been waiting for isn't out there. It's on the other side of showing up today. When you lead yourself, you don't need permission to rise. Most people live by outside permission. They wait for the signal, for the nod, for someone to say, now you may begin. They hand over their power, believing they need approval before they can act. But the person who leads themselves doesn't wait. They don't ask. They move, whether seen or doubted. Praised or ignored, they still take the first step. They rise, not because they were invited, but because they decided to. To live this way, you must become your own commander, not a follower of moods, not a seeker of signs. You must develop inner direction. This doesn't mean being loud or arrogant. It means walking with purpose, quietly, powerfully, persistently. It means trusting your vision even when no one claps. The leader within doesn't shout or chase attention. They act consistently and deliberately. Why is this so rare? Because self-leadership is lonely. It doesn't come with instant validation. No crowd cheers for the person waking early to build what no one else can see. The early stages of greatness are always quiet. You must believe in your steps long before the results appear. You must work in silence while others wait for applause. But once you build this muscle, everything changes. You stop needing to be pushed. You pull yourself every single day. That is power. When no one has to remind you. When no one has to cheer for you. When no outside voice is louder than the one within. That's when you become unshakable. Not because the path is easy, but because you've stopped waiting to be chosen. You've chosen yourself. You've accepted the quiet responsibility of your own future. So how do you begin to lead yourself? You write your mission. Put your vision into words. Not vague hopes, but a clear direction. This is who I am. This is where I'm going. Then you create your own rules. Not society's, not comforts, but yours. Set your standards. Hold them fiercely. Don't wait for someone else to monitor your progress. You monitor yourself. Don't wait for a manager. You become one. This mindset changes everything. Suddenly, each day carries purpose. Your routine isn't just a task list, it's a blueprint. Your time becomes sacred. Your energy becomes intentional. You no longer scroll for permission, you build. You stop comparing because you're too focused on creating. And in that solitude, you discover a rare peace, a rhythm only the self-led ever know. Picture someone building a bridge in the dark. No one asked them to. No one believed it would work. Yet they keep laying stone, day by day, in wind, in doubt, in silence. They don't pause to explain. They don't beg for recognition. They simply continue. And one day, someone walks across that bridge. Then another. Then dozens. The world asks, how did you do this? And the builder just smiles. They already knew. This is how leadership begins, not when others follow, but when you lead before they do. Before they believe. Before they see. Before they clap. True self-leadership is invisible at first, but it's in that invisibility that greatness is built. If you only act when someone is watching, you'll never go far. But if you act because you are watching, then nothing can stop you. You don't need credentials. You don't need validation. The truth is, no one will fully see your vision until it's complete. And by then, you'll already be too far ahead to need their opinion. That's what happens when you choose to lead yourself. You create momentum from within. You're no longer steered by reaction, you're moved by conviction. People may misunderstand your quiet determination. They may mock the early stages of your work. Let them, because while they wait for clarity, you're building it. While they wait for proof, you're becoming it. You're no longer auditioning. You're executing. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. You understand the difference between being comfortable and being called, and you choose the latter. Leading yourself isn't arrogance, it's alignment. It's the recognition that no one else can see your full blueprint. No one else carries your exact calling. That means no one else can truly give you permission, only you can. And when you finally grant yourself that permission, when you decide, this is mine to build, the world shifts. Not instantly, but eventually, because you didn't wait. Look at your life right now. Where are you waiting for applause before you move? Where are you waiting to feel ready? Where are you hoping someone else sees your potential before you claim it yourself? Stop waiting. You're not here to be discovered. You're here to build, to lead, to rise, quietly and consistently, even when no one is watching. So write your mission, set your rules, make your path, lead yourself like someone you deeply respect, because that's what self-leadership truly is. Not just ambition, but honor, the kind that shows up early, stays late, and moves forward without needing to be seen. That kind of person becomes inevitable, not because they were invited, but because they showed up anyway. Will you lead yourself before anyone else believes in your path? Will you build your bridge while others sleep? Will you hold your standard when no one is watching? The answers to these questions won't be spoken. They'll be revealed in the work, in the habits, in the silence. And in time, the world will walk across what you built, wondering how you did it. But you'll know, I led myself. When the world grows quiet and your soul feels numb, remember this. Your breakthrough won't come from waiting to feel ready. It comes from moving anyway, from standing up when nothing inside you wants to. That's how greatness is born, not from emotion, but from decision. So the next time you feel nothing, do something. Take one step, then another, and don't stop. Because the version of you that refuses to quit is the one who wins. Wishing you health, happiness, and remember to subscribe to my channel, Mindset Daily.